All right, so multiplying or expanding binomials. So we're going to expand each of the following. So first things first is I'm going to write down FOIL. FOIL is going to save us. It's going to help us remember what order to do everything. So F stands for first. So we're going to have the first term in this bracket times the first term in the second bracket. Outside. That means that the outside terms are multiplied by each other. Third, you have the inside terms. So we're going to have the inside term here times the inside term there. And then finally the last, we have the last term of this bracket times the last term in the second bracket. So I'm going to put my equal sign up and we're going to get started. So first, we have x times x. X times x gives us x squared. Next, we are going to multiply the outside term x times the outside term in the second bracket. So x times negative 4 gives me negative 4x. Third step is the inside term. We have positive 3 times x. So positive 3 times x gives me positive 3x. And the last term in this bracket times the last term in this bracket, we have positive 3 times negative 4. Positive times a negative is a negative, and 3 times 4 is 12. So now if we look here, we have our inside terms are the same. We have a negative 4x and a positive 3x. So keep my equal sign lined up. We're going to simplify now. So if we look here, there's only one term in this whole thing that has a x squared. None of these have x squared, so we can just leave that one as is. There's nothing else to add to it. But when we look at these inside terms, oops, they both have x's. So we have negative 4x's and we're adding 3x's. So when you simplify that, we have negative 1x. You don't have to put the 1 out in front. It's assumed that it's there. Okay? Last but not least is we have negative 12. There's nothing else on here that has just the number, so we leave it as negative 12. And that's your final answer. Moving on to the second one. We have 5x minus 1 in one bracket, and then negative 2x plus 6 in the second bracket. So first term, 5x times negative 2x, is we multiply our numbers first. So 5 times negative 2 gives me negative 10. And then we have x times x, which means we have 2 x's, so it's x squared. We are adding the variables on top of the x's. So there's both, assume that there's a 1. Okay, next step. We have the outside term 5x times positive 6. So we multiply our numbers first. 5 times 6 gives us 30, and since they are both positive, it's a positive 30. And there's only one x with this one, just that x there. The 6 doesn't have an x, so it's just 30x. Next step is we have our inside terms, negative 1 times negative 2x. Negative times negative is a positive. 1 times 2 gives us 2. Oops, 2. And there's only one x there, so it's just positive 2x. And last but not least, we have negative 1 times positive 6. Negative times a positive is a negative, and 1 times 6 gives you 6. Now, next step, we have to look, see if there's anything that has the same terms, okay? So this is an x squared. There's no other x squareds in there, so we can leave it. Negative 10. X squared. But if we look at the next part, we have 30 x's and then we have 2 x's. So that means that we can actually add these two together. So 30 x's and then adding 2 more x's gives us a positive 32x. And last but not least, we have a negative 6. There's no other numbers in here, so it's left all by itself. So we just have negative 6. Last example here, C. This one looks crazy, but it's not that bad. All that's different is this little 5 out in front. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put my equal sign, and I'm going to put that 5 out in front and open up a bracket and just leave that till the very end. After we do our FOIL, then I'll just write it up here, FOIL. Then we can multiply our final answer and make it 5 times bigger. So first step first, 3x times negative 2x. 3 times negative 2 gives you negative 6. X times x gives us x squared. Now we have our outside terms, 3x times negative 4. Positive times a negative gives you a negative. And then 3 times 4 gives you 12. And now we'll look at our variables. We only had an x here. There's no x in that one, so we will leave it. 1x. Now we're going to go to our inside terms. 1 times negative 2x. So positive 1 times negative 2 gives you negative 2. And there's only 1x in this one, so we'll just leave it 1x. Last but not least, we have our last terms. Positive 1 times negative 4. Positive times a negative is a negative. 1 times 4 is 4. So we're going to close the bracket. So next step, keep our equal sign lined up. Keep our 5 out in front. And I'm going to open up the bracket. We want to simplify inside the bracket. So if we look here, this one has an x squared. Nothing else has an x squared. So we can leave that negative 6x squared. If we look at the middle term here, okay, we have both of these have an x. So we can simplify that. So it's negative 12x, and we're going to take away another 2x. So what we are left with is negative 14x's. And then we have negative 4 left at the very end. There's nothing else to simplify with, so it stays negative 4. Now, we are going to deal with this 5 out in front. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything in this bracket right here by 5. So I have my equal sign lined up. I'm going to have 5 times negative 6x squared. So a positive 5 times negative 6 gives me negative 30. And then we don't have any other x's except for the x squared right here. So we're going to leave x squared. Next step, we have 5 times negative 14x. So in my calculator, let me just open it up because it went quiet on me. So 5 times 14 is going to be 70, but it's a negative 70 because it's a positive times a negative. And then we just have our 1x. And at the very end, we have 5 times negative 4. Positive times a negative is a negative. 5 times 4 is 20. And that is your final answer. Okay, so watch these videos as many times as you need, and pause them when something doesn't make sense, and re-watch whenever you need, okay? Bye.